This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Playing the boy from New York City, not because Bill King is from New York. He's not. He lives right outside Nashville. But that song performed by the Manhattan Transfer. And transfers are an overarching theme across college football these days. And we always appreciate your time, especially on Commit Miss Day, Bill. My gosh, I listened to Commit Miss for a while this morning. You're usually doing a 3-hour show, 5 hours, and yet you're still coming on halftime today, man. You're putting in some extra time.
That would be like asking Matt Jones back in his playing days, next game's going to be 7 quarters. You just got to do it.
Let's go get it, right? Let's go. Who we playing? Yeah.
I don't know. He's done it before, you know. The guy knows what it's like to play 6 or 7 overtimes.
Right.
So your show is fun to listen to, but Commit Miss is different. You're at the Omni Hotel in Nashville, and like you have listeners that are traveling to Nashville to be part of this event and go on the air with you. I mean, this is unique, I think, as far as really, I think sports radio is concerned almost anywhere.
New York City, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, South Florida. One guy from New Zealand. Now, he moved here, but technically a guy from New Zealand.
That's amazing.
That's wild.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's cool.
How much? Well, and I didn't hear earlier in the morning. I'm sure you spoke quite a bit about Mike Leach, and I know you did radio with him. You know, had a relationship with Mike Leach. We've talked with you about him quite a bit. You know, when he joined the SEC at Mississippi State and everything. You know, I mean, we've heard so many heartfelt stories, you know, not just about how funny he was, but the influence that he had upon individuals and then upon the sport of college football. And it's been amazing to see this outpouring of these last couple of days. And I know for you, it had to be awfully difficult too, because I know you knew him personally.
Yeah, and privately, everybody knew Sunday. When he had his heart attack, it was over. He lost oxygen to his brain for about 10 minutes, and they actually had to revive him, but he had no brain function. And so the only thing left then was the family, and to make sure that they were there for him at that hospital in Jackson, and then make the decision to discontinue the life support. And that was the process. And obviously they wanted things private, and I thought it was relatively private, most of it. Yeah, it's a sad story, man. 61. I did not realize he had been struggling with pneumonia like he apparently was. I did not know that. I saw people would comment about he's coughing unusually a lot during games. And I think he had been probably a little bit more sick than any of us did.
Now, remind me, when the two of you did radio together, and what was he like, you know, you say like as a radio personality, but I just think he was just a personality wherever he went, whether he was just talking one-on-one with somebody or in front of the media or everything. What was that? When did that happen, when you and he worked together?
He was on my same channel when everything blew up at Texas Tech, and he came to Sirius XM. And he co-hosted the show after mine with Jack Arute. It was a midday show, and it came on after the morning show that I did. Actually, it was a show after my show. And so when we would travel to championship games, you know, Fiesta Bowl, Miami, New Orleans, L.A., wherever, we'd be together. So, I'd done some random shows with him, but he wasn't on my show. He was on Jack Arute's show. And I got to know him that way. And just to sit down and hear him talk about, he never got over Texas Tech. And to this day, they owe him money. And Mike Leach is that eccentric guy that you get to see on Mike. He's also a very complicated guy. And he's a guy that holds a grudge. Mike Leach does not get over stuff. And to this day, before his death, if you brought up Texas Tech, he'd literally go into an expletive tirade. And was never going to get over it. And here's the other thing. The Mike Leach, and I love Mike, but the Mike Leach you see on Mike behind the scenes isn't the Mike Leach who's coaching. Mike Leach is a tough, brutal at times with his football team. That kid, that running back that transferred a week ago, tweeted, "Hey, Leach told me I'm soft, so I'm leaving." That was the starting running back. Mike Leach if he's unhappy, the players, he's rough. He's rough. Do you see that game a couple of weeks ago where he started folding up the chairs for the wide receiver?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, Mike Leach is a very interesting dude. He's got a lot of different levels of his personality, and I enjoyed him. I mean, I liked him.
Yeah, he was honest to a fault, I think. Some of those kids, Coach Nutt was telling me, you kind of recruit these kids and you kind of got to de-recruit them a little bit, and it's tough, especially when they're getting there. But man, I just look at his fingerprints all over college football right now, and USC, Tennessee, some of his people. I think that's kind of how he'd be remembered, that air raid style. But that he has a lot of coaches out there that worked with him that are having a lot of success.
I first heard of him in around 2000.
Yeah, the How Mummy.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky fired Bill Curry, who was using Tim Couch at times in a triple option, which is just, I mean, you can't even get your hands on that.
It's funny to think about.
I mean, yeah, and so
be like Troy Aikman running a triple option. Yeah,
correct. So they hire Hal Mummy, and Tim Couch is going to transfer to Tennessee. He wanted to go to Tennessee out of high school, and his dad talked him into going to the state youth school. First year was miserable there. He never heard of Hal Mummy. He never heard of Valdosta State, where he and Coach Leach were. They get there, and he agrees to meet with Mummy, and he tells Mummy that he's probably going to transfer. Mummy says, "You're my quarterback. I haven't even seen you yet. I know about your reputation, but I haven't even seen you. I'm telling you, you're my starting quarterback. We're going to throw it 50 times a game, and it's going to be your right arm." And again, that was the beginning of Mike Leach. Now, Mike Leach immediately got hired right in there to join Stoops at Oklahoma. And that's when his kind of star took off as an individual.
Yeah, they won a national title that year, didn't they? Beat Florida State. Yes, sir.
Mark Mangino and him were kind of together as the co-coordinators on that team.
Wow. Yeah. And now, I mean, it's just funny you're saying triple option for a major college football program. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. And one of the reasons is because of the air raid.
You don't have Tommy Frazier. Yeah. Tim Couch.
Correct. I mean, Tim Couch coming out was supposed to be the next Peyton Manning. But probably with Manning's never been known as a guy with a cannon for an arm, but he's obviously one of the best ever. This kid, just the same size, big arm, just not as good as Peyton. Yeah. Just not quite as good.
I wanted to ask you about some of the coordinator hires in the SEC in the last few days, and then the rumor about a possible relationship, professional working relationship with Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino. So let me just start there. Like, I can't imagine a world where those two egos can coexist working for the same team. And honestly, I don't think I can imagine a world where Bobby Petrino is working for another head football coach. Certainly not Correct. Jimbo Fisher. What did you think when you saw that this is a possibility?
Two alpha males, one the boss of another, one used to being the head guy, both successful. And you could say Petrino has backstabbing in his past. Remember Jet Gate at Auburn? I mean, there's a lot of Tom Tuberville. That's another good conversation. Just sit down with him sometime and ask him, just give me 5 minutes on Bob Petrino. And it sounds like Leach talking about Texas Tech is exactly what it sounds like. I'm not kidding. It is interesting, to say the least. Can't stand him. Anyways, I don't know that two big, 2,000-pound bulls can exist in the same little arena, right? And that one made no sense. Now, Bob Petrino's a hell of a ball coach when he's right, and he's a hell of an offensive mind, too. I mean, he's fantastic. I would think that if Petrino took that job, and I'm sure he wouldn't admit this, the whole feeling is if Jimbo fails, maybe I get it. That's the only reason. Well,
and so let me ask about Auburn then. And they bring in Philip Montgomery to run the offense, Roberts running the defense, and there were reports that Arkansas was interested in Roberts to be the defensive coordinator here, and that he chose to work for Freeze at Auburn. I wonder if that's also a thought that, when you're joining a new coaching staff, there's, you get that buffer period of like time to create your own program instead of joining a team at Arkansas where the head coach is in his fourth year and the expectations might be, a little bit different. I just wonder what you made of that hire and the fact that the defensive coordinator job at Arkansas is still open.
Well, and maybe it's a fresh canvas to paint on at Auburn. That might have something to it too. I mean, Arkansas, they need a guy, but I mean, we already kind of know what the blueprint's going to be. It's from the head coach down, right? And that's a good blueprint for them. But the Auburn job is a fresh canvas to paint on. Obviously, they're at a very low level right now, and maybe I don't know the coach. Those two coordinators I do not personally know, so I can only guess. But that's probably and obviously Auburn can pay as well as anybody. That's not a problem.
When you make a Dowell Loggins at South Carolina, we all here thought that maybe Loggins would be the offensive coordinator in waiting whenever Kendall Briles moved on. But Briles didn't move on, and he's overqualified as a tight ends coach. And I mean, truthfully, a combination of Shane Beamer as a head coach, Dowell Loggins as an offensive coordinator is pretty good. That's pretty darn good there.
If Spencer Rattler is right, I agree. Now, down the stretch, he played well. For the most part, he has not played well, including his last year at Oklahoma and including last year at South Carolina and a lot of this year at South Carolina. But down the stretch, the Tennessee game and the Clemson game, when they beat two top 10 teams, he played very well. He played outstanding. If that's the guy you're getting, then it could be interesting.
Yeah, Dow's just as much as X's O's as anybody, but he knows how to talk to the players, man. He's that Jeff Fisher, John Fox guy, man. That's a great move for everybody involved. I mean, selfishly, I'd like to see him at Arkansas, but it's a great move for him.
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, Bill, this transfer portal is so tough to get my mind wrapped around right now. And maybe part of it is that Arkansas is just losing players instead of bringing them in just yet. I mean, what do we got over 1,000 players in the portal now? Something's got to change as far. You think it's over 1,000?
I saw some. I think it's 1,000 plus. But if you include all levels, FCS, FBS, D2, D3, I think it's 4,000.
That's amazing. That is simply amazing. There's not that many jobs out there. What needs to be fixed? Top of the list do you need to move? You need to move early signing period even earlier than it's been before, maybe to before the season. NCAA's got to fix something about NIL. We've got coaches, openly talking about their roster being poached by other programs that are offering NIL money. And so it was the Washington State coach said, we've got coaches actually calling our players and offering them money to jump to them. I don't know how you fix that, though. I really don't know, how you can fix the problems with NIL. I mean, that's for somebody that's smarter than me, but that feels like that would probably be top of the list.
Yeah, they tightened the windows up. I mean, that's, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, right? I mean, what difference does it make? I do think it was a good idea to tighten that window up. It doesn't matter. I mean, think about it. It really doesn't matter. You can announce you're transferring. Just because you're not ready to be in the portal, it's not time to be in the portal. You can still say, I'm out of here. And when it's time, everybody already knows. But the problem we have, and I don't really know what the fix is, because I think once the genie's out of the bottle, and metaphorically speaking, genies don't go back in the bottle once they come out, right? And here's the other item. The NCAA is showing no indication they care. So I don't think there's a fix, at least now that the genie's out. And I don't think that the people who are supposed to be overseeing everything give a rip either. And that's the problem. And I think we're stuck with it. I got to admit, it's terrible for the game, but I have to admit it's fun to see where different guys are going, and then you're thinking about the impact they may or may not make. I got to admit, in a segmented way, that's been fun.
You've come around on that. You have come around on that. There's no doubt.
I have. A little bit, yeah.
I wonder for the fans. It's just tough, man. When basketball did that 20 years ago, college basketball, it just seemed like the casual fan. I guess, but like what you're saying, they're not really worried about the casual fan. They're making too much money. They don't care.
Well, that and 12 teams, there's going to be billions more
in
revenue with the playoffs. And I mean, that's all this touchy-feely academic and being a good guy. None of that matters. None of that matters at all in that world. Probably, you know what? It probably hadn't for a long time, but it's gotten worse. And I get it. I mean, I guess if I was a CEO and I'm running college football or something, and I got a chance to make billions on a new contract, I'm getting paid to do that, right? I'd probably have to do it.
Football is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.